There are so many games to play nowadays. Heck, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I spend over 1000 USD this year on games alone. That's a lot of money. But that is also not considering some of the games I haven't even touched, because to play every game to see if I want to recommend it or not, well, it can be exhausting. It got to the point that if I wanted to play some, shall we say, backlog games, I needed some sort of motivation to even play them now. Alright, Pat, what do you want?
Maxim, we were supposed to have a meeting today?
Hi, Pat! Did not totally forget about that.
Right. Say, I heard you were talking about playing some old backlog games.
Well, yeah, wait, how do you know about that?
Well, funny enough, I also have some backlog games I wanted to talk about, so let's make a video together.
Pat, you're not answering.
Cool. Cue the intro.
Pat, how did you?
Backlog Activated.
Before we start, introduce yourself, Pat.
Hey there, my name is PatNat, and I make things occasionally on the internet, sometimes when I feel like it, most of the time.
With that out of the way, here's some house rules before we dive into this. We're going to be talking about 4 backlog games. 2 games that I picked and 2 games that Pat picked. Kind of. We'll get back to that later.
The second thing is, we both need to spend at least an hour or 2 playing each game. This just makes sure we actually give them a fair shot for review and see if we'll continue playing the game after this video.
We understand that some games may take more than 2 hours to get to the good part. So we just ask that you understand that we are looking at this as someone who wants to see if we want to play more or not. And you to take this opinion as a grain of salt. With that out of the way, buckle up, because we are starting off with a big one. This is my first pick. I have seen a lot of people diving into Pizza Tower and saying that they absolutely love it. So many completed the game, 100%ed the game, because it was just that good. It had enough voices that I wanted to try it, and needless to say,
I don't like it.
What?
As much as I don't want to call it ugly, for the lack of a better word, it's ugly.
Okay, I'll give you that. Especially the main character. I get that they were going for the whole 90s Cartoon Network vibe, but I never liked those vibes to begin with. Ed, Ed and Eddie, Cow and Chicken, I Am Weezer. It perfectly captured that vibe, and I applaud them for it. It's just not for us.
Well, the main character wasn't the problem. It was more so the TV for me. While the game is simple, sweet, funny, and, well, stupid, the problem for me was it just overloads the screen with so much visual information. Like I mentioned, the TV is over there. Oh, there's an enemy here. And there. Oh, look, the TV is doing something. Ah, shucks, I got hit on the wall. There's so much going on at all times that it almost hurts my head playing the game.
I can see where you are coming from, but for me, it wasn't overloaded. Probably helps because I am used to playing overloaded games. Bullet Hells, Depths of Eden, the critical acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with up.
Maxim.
Right. Point here is I am so used to looking at overloaded things that I just know what I'm looking at. So there's some things that sometimes be overwhelming, but for me, at least for this game, that wasn't really the case. I just knew I had to look at the enemy, I just knew I had to look at myself at times, I just knew. So for this department, I really don't have any complaints at all. Gameplay though, I had so much fun. Running around, killing enemies, keeping your combos in check, and then running back before the time runs out. I really had a blast. My problem with this game is the controls. It is so loose that it can cause a run. It has happened to me multiple times, and I hate it.
I have seen a lot of 2D platformers having the same problem when using analog stick controls, and this was no exception. Yes, the platforming is very forgiving, but misused inputs still make a recipe for a bad night. I really like some of the aspects though, like power-ups, even though they don't tell us properly how to use them. But with overloaded info and ugly designs, I can't fully recommend playing this game. Such a shame too, I played like 6 stages just to see if I liked it. Maxim, what is that face?
I only played 3 stages. Yeah, turns out when I wanted to perfect rank all of them, it took me 5 hours just to play 3 stages. But I think it pretty much sums up that I really recommend the game. It's so fun. It's so thrilling. The trials and errors of doing over and over and over, and then finally getting that perfect rank. Mwah! Perfecto. It's just so satisfying. I just recommend it. Of course, I still have problems with the game. Losing controls, aesthetics is not my forte, and well, I didn't really talk about it, but some enemy placement is a very scum move, shall we say. This game is fun, and I had a blast playing it, so I recommend trying the game. Though watch some gameplay videos before considering it, if it's your thing or not. Plus, the music is pretty great.
Amen. Moving on, let's talk about my first game, Rocket.
Oh yeah, the game that isn't your backlog and you already played it.
I can explain. Long story short, I misunderstood the prompt as pick any game instead of just the backlog one, but hey, I wanted to spotlight this game because I've played a lot of it. The presentation alone is just amazing. Between the choppy animated faces and the charming cutscenes, everything looks and feels great. Seeing the stop motion turn into absolute comedy is just funny, and they executed it really well. Needless to say, I
don't like it.
Oh, come on!
Credit where credit is due. Everything what Pat said, I agree. I love the presentation. I love how the game looks in each settings of the fight. I love the music. The problem solely comes with the gameplay. Essentially, it's a tower defense and monkey ball combined. You set the trap so that the borders do less damage to the final gates. Best if you do is destroy the borders to begin with before it reaches the point, aka the final gate.
Yeah? Of course there are other game modes as well, like race and skee ball, but with a variety of characters and traps, what's wrong with it?
Well, the traps. Or should I say, the impact the traps do. See, the more I try to set the trap and interact with them, the more I really question if it's even doing their job. Besides 1 or 2 of them, most of them I get early on just feels like they're just doing little to no setback for the border to, well, smash the gate. Not as hard as you guys hitting the subscribe button, but who's counting? Listen, I don't like doing this either, but call to action works, so help me out here, okay? Please,
I do have to agree about the traps and the unlocking system in general. It does take a lot of time to get new things, but as you get more stuff, the game gets better and better, especially in the late game when things get neck to neck and a single cloud bolt could determine the winner.
But that's the problem. You're telling me that the game will get better later. It's like saying the TV shows get better in season 2 or 3, or this book gets better after halfway through it. That is still a lot of commitment just to get to the good part.
But again, you have so many game modes at your disposal, so you can still play them if you need a break.
And this is where we are at impasse. The problem with this game is commitment. Because yes, this game is fun and it can be really fun. But the problem is over time it gets boring because the traps and everything that you want it to work maybe doesn't. Because yeah, rolling down the hill, bashing the gates and everything is fun, but you want something more and more. And it takes time to just get to that.
Whereas if you give the game time, it does get really fun.
So I think the best way to say it is, I recommend the game, but only if you can commit to it, because it will take time to get to the good part.
But when the time comes, oh boy, it gets fun, and it gets fun fast. Trust me, I absolutely love this game for a reason.
Alright, next one.
I like it.
Finally. This game is amazing. It looks amazing, it feels amazing, and the story it tells is pretty great.
Well...
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Hold on. The problem I have with this game is how it communicates with the player. When characters are portraying something through beautiful pixel art images, it gets confusing and sometimes muddles the narrative and lore.
Interesting, because for me, it made perfect sense what they were trying to portray. Of course, it wouldn't be understanding one-on-one all the time, but the images and the context is enough for me to clue in what they were trying to communicate to me.
Of course, the story isn't the big one. That would go to gameplay and presentation. But you have to think about simplicity versus complexity, as this game doesn't know what it wants to be at times. But, moving on, the presentation is actually amazing. The pixel art looks stunning, and no matter what's on screen, no aspect looks like it was phoned in. The details in the world are so vast and pretty. There are people running around the world living their own lives, having their own stories, making it feel like the world doesn't revolve around you, which it doesn't. To have such a living environment despite the pixel art limitations, hats off to you, devs.
Pat pretty much summed up the visual. So, as a certified musician, let me talk about the music. I'm usually not a big fan of electric ambient music. Nothing against it, just not my cup of tea. With that said, Hyperlife Drifter music is pretty good. It does have that mystery element behind the world. If you go there, what would happen? What is this? Should I go there? The music always makes you feel like you are exploring the unknown. It doesn't ban you from it. In fact, sometimes it encourages you. But it's also warning you that things can get messy if need be. And, well, for this game, that vibe perfectly fits this game. So, good job, Heart Machine and Disaster Piece.
The gameplay is another thing done very well. Playing feels incredibly smooth and the utilities are just simple enough to understand. A good example is the minimal health bar and how many medkits you have, all of which is shown with a simple yet effective interface. And that constant feeling of you just gotta keep moving, it's something great.
Hold up, time out. What are you talking about?
What I mean is, in combat, you can't just stop and think about what you want to do. You gotta move, kill, dodge, and repeat. Although, because of the constant movement, I often found myself snagging onto random objects, which could be frustrating given the chaotic battle zones that this game tends to have.
That's interesting because we both had a different playstyle. For me, I just looked at the enemies where they are, went for one of them, attacked, dodged, and went to the next safe location, and then think again where to attack the next enemy, who to attack, one at a time, rinse and repeat. It's interesting we both had a different playstyle. Everything for me was a calculation, so I rarely hit random objects because, well, I calculated it. So I don't have that complaint. Of course, I'm not saying one playstyle is better than the other. Do what you want to do. I just found it interesting that we both had different playstyle for the same indie game.
I do have to say though, dying in this game sucks. Your respawn point could be far away from your dying point, sometimes even 5 to 10 minutes far, which gets annoying when you die over and over. Some better placed spawn points could really help. Also, while the graphics are really detailed, they're sometimes too detailed. They'd often land on a trap because I don't think it's a trap, rather just shading of an object, and when that's repeated over and over, it just gets annoying.
The opposite can also be said. The map system is simple. Too simple. And complex. Too complex. Sometimes I want to know where to go in order to progress the story, but the map doesn't help how to get there. And then when you try to see which paths connect to which, you have this mess to deal with. I can somewhat read the map, but honestly, it could have been a lot better than what we got. But despite all its flaws, it's still a good game. A simple concept, beautiful art and music, and amazing world building.
The game could just benefit from having a better balance between simple and complex, or even committing to one direction, avoiding the sometimes messy experience. But overall, it's a very enjoyable game, and we both recommend it fully.
Now, let's talk about the final game of the 4 backlog games we picked. The last one.
Honestly, there was a debate between this and Hyperlight Drifter, but after going back and forth, we decided to end it on the highest note.
And boy, does he sing high. This is not an exaggeration when I say I felt like my soul was being pulled into the game. In less than a minute, the intro just made me hooked.
It feels more like an experience than a game, but it's still a game, and it's a beautiful one. At any point while playing, you could take a screenshot and it will be a finished composition ready to be your desktop wallpaper, or you can hang it up as art. That's what this game is, art. The music is mesmerizing with dramatic and sometimes scary tones mixed in. The amount of respect paid towards the fine arts with watercolor and sculptural themes is very well executed. To have all of that elegantly fitting into one game, it's just wonderful.
The puzzle in this game was pretty simple to understand, and I didn't really have any hard time solving any really. Which makes sense since this game is about taking your time and just experiencing the world around you.
Maybe a bit too much time. I like games to be a little bit faster than Gris is. The pacing feels kinda slow and sometimes I just wanted to progress but needed to wait for essentially a cutscene. Which was always a pretty wait, but I feel like progression generally takes longer than it should.
There were times I did feel slow, but not as much as Pat is criticizing here. The pacing could be faster for sure, but for me, the pace it went, it was also fine. With that said, please play Gris. Both of us highly recommend the game, and honestly, you just need to play it and not be spoiled. Trust me, editing for this game without spoiling is not gonna be easy. And that was the 4 backlog games we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, finally getting to play games I've been wanting to play for a while feels great, motivating.
Yeah, I really want to do more and more of this, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think it's quite fitting for this channel.
You know what? Same. Why are we staring at each other?
Pat, Backlog Activated.
Oh!
Backlog Activated.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Pat and I started a new channel, Backlog Activated, where we go to our backlogs, randomly pick one, and talk about them. Episode 1 is already out, which is Severed Steel. Be sure to check it out. Trust me, there's a lot more coming out, which is, I would have not ever played it if it wasn't for that channel. So please do consider it. I love some of the games I played. With that said, be sure to subscribe to this channel as well. Like, comment. Do you want me to talk about another game? Let me know. And of course, stay connected.